We're going to be doing a bit of a different stream. I was talking about this one a little bit last time, but we're going to be doing a stream where we talk about our previous stuff that we've done. We did art streams about 2 years back, and with those ones, let's do this one. Yeah, okay. We did a bunch of art for something called Brotherhood of Steel, which is a real rough game in general. It's bar none, I think, the worst Fallout game ever to be released. And with that, I wanted to make a remake of that game. And part of that was drawing the concept art for each of the characters that we're putting into the game, as well as making a game design to document. And unfortunately, what happened is I did not VOD these videos on time. So what this stream is talking about what we had before for this and seeing if we might want to continue. And one of the big things I want to do with this is go back through all of the concept art we already did, redo all of the line art and everything, because unfortunately, I don't use the same program as I used to, and with these guys, this is the best one. Let's go to Buick's for sale. There you go, Slender Fisher. We have them as just backgrounds rather than the line art and everything. And what I think we can do with this is I think we can draw it much quicker because we're just going to be tracing over the old one. But we can then make it so that we clean these up and make them look nicer. So what we're going to go through is just talk about each of these and kind of like the streams we used to have with them and the fun times, as well as go through the game design document and just reminisce. I think the best place to start is the game design document, of course. And with that, we're just going to go through it, see if we want to add anything, and figure out what our scope is going to be for our game that we want to make in general. So we had it so it's the Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. I should tell you what Fallout Brotherhood of Steel is. Let's see if I can find it. Fallout Brotherhood of Steel game. So this is what the game looked like. We'll see if we can find. We'll bring up the wiki as well as the images. So as you can tell, real not great art style. And for the actual gameplay and stuff, it didn't look great either. But we'll see if it shows some screenshots of it. Yeah, so it was a game that it released in 2004, and it was one of the last games that Interplay made with the Fallout license, and it was so bad it tanked. It had some fun stuff with a Balls energy drink. Just deal with them. So there's adverts for it in the game, which isn't actually fun. That's sarcastic. It was real bad. Like there was literally just billboards with that stuff sticking out of it. It's just kind of silly. These three characters we drew for the different things. I'm going to turn this music slightly down actually because it is distracting. There we go. So we drew Cyrus, Kane, and Nadia. I lost the file for Kane and I'm real bummed about it because I don't think we ever finished Kane because I was moving at that point. But I started him and I remember starting him. We lost all of our streams for Cyrus, and Nadia I think we had the streams for. So it's just kind of depressing. These guys we never made at all. In fact, I don't think they actually make sense for our revival, and we'll get to that when we get there. But yeah, we have it so that the game starts in the town of Carbon, and you are pursuing some super mutants, and you have to go through different locales to be able to find them. And there's this guy, Addis, who's like the super mutant general, and he's trying to basically make himself into the big boss of the super mutants, like the Master was back in the day. And it didn't go so well. It actually received a 7.3 from GameSpot, a 7.5 on IGN, and a 3.10 from Eurogamer. And it didn't go well. It really didn't. Yeah, I think there was something where they lost the rights to the Dark Alliance engine because of the game or something. I don't remember though. Yeah, it was poorly sold though. Like it barely got anything for sales. But this game, I've played it before, and it's not good. So what I was talking about with the streams was remaking it. And part of that is taking what's good from the original game and putting it into this game, as well as with the benefit of hindsight for everything that we have had with Fallout for the last 9 years. We can make something that's interesting. It was going to be a game set near the time of Fallout New Vegas, where it's nebulous what happens to Kaiser's Legion, and it's still the same plot, but the plot is just expanded because part of the problem with the game was it wasn't well told, and part of that is just like, okay, we have these three people who randomly joined the Brotherhood of Steel, and how did they get here and all of that. And then you have it so that there's other people, like Rhombus is a guy from the first Fallout or the second Fallout, and somehow he is alive still. It's like, what? How is he alive? So what we did, instead of having it so it's Rhombus and the Texas Brotherhood, we had it so it's the Midwestern Brotherhood, and all of these characters, Kane and Nadia and Cyrus, joined the Brotherhood in pursuit of a new threat in the super mutants because they realize a faction of super mutants, which calls themselves the New Unity, are going after something in Texas. So they travel south to find out what these super mutants are doing, and that's kind of the plot of what our remake was going to do. Our game concept is Fallout Brotherhood of Steel remake, correcting and improving several aspects from the original game. Very simple concept where we look at the bones of the previous, make it a lot better. And this wasn't a complete GDD. We just kind of were building it out as we were like drawing and such, so we could figure out what all of our stuff was. Genre is RPG, squad, post-apocalypse. We want to make it closer to Fallout 1 and 2, as well as tactics, rather than the newer Fallouts. So it would be actually kind of closer to what Baldur's Gate plays like, where you have the action economy and it's turn-based-ish, where your people have AP and they use a certain amount of AP for whatever moves they're using and everything. And then the target audience was Fallout fans and post-apocalypse enthusiasts. We didn't have a scope yet. What I'm thinking is we build a the tutorial area from Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, and then renovate that into more of what we wanted for it. So we would have the warehouse with the rad scorpions, which is your first mission, as well as the weird bombed out pits area, which has radiation, and you're supposed to go there to, I think, rescue some people or get to the matriarch's camp. and we would rebuild all of that and try and figure out how we're gonna do it instead of how they did it. Because I think that unfortunately the way it was presented wasn't very solid. Um, Gameplay objectives were to defeat remnants of the Master's army, which is the new Unity, and then deal with the factions of northern Texas, bringing them to your side or by destroying them. So, like, there's differing paths here where you can, instead of just having it so the matriarchs are straight up an enemy, they would be an enemy or a friend, depending on how you deal with them. And you can kind of make them have different paths, because something that was so good about earlier Fallout games was the branching pathways of everything. In-game GUI was going to be similar to what Fallout 1 and 2 have. So your whole screen would have action points still, and you would have the ability to have a primary and a secondary weapon that you can swap between, and so on. The game, we were thinking about making it single player as well as multiplayer co-op. That depends on how skilled of a programmer I can be. I don't think I can. And then we were going to make it a shooter slash a whatever ARPG, which is what the previous version was. So, and not like a shooter as in like a first person shooter. It'd be an isometric type look for it. World building set in Fallout universe year 2282. I believe that is right after when New Vegas is, but I'd have to double check. Story: a small detachment from the Midwest Brotherhood of Steel gets sent to the town of Carbon, Texas, to investigate rumors of a resurgence of the remnants of the Master's Unity. When arriving at Carbon, the Initiate's player characters get separated from the Paladins and Knights sent with them to locate these remnants. And then the locations we were thinking about for the game, we had Carbon, Texas, of course. We had the Honey Bastion, which is Fort Worth. Renfa, which is a Renaissance fair that goes around different parts of the United States and helps people with older styles of building. And they're more nomadic, but they try their best not to use anything that they can't forge themselves or make themselves. So they don't have really that much in the way of guns, except for in dire case of emergency. Red rockets, which are the gas stations, we would have a few of those strewn about, potentially as random encounters. Because we want to have the map the way it was in Fallout 1 and 2, so we can craft the areas in the towns. We want to make it so the towns have their own feel, and we want to make it so that we can span a larger bit of the map, and it doesn't make sense to condense things so much, so we want to make it so that we have the exit stage, and then you can go around the map with like the Fallout Pip-Boy type look, where you go from town to town with that. We wanted to have a Nuka-Cola warehouse, a Vim warehouse, and a Sunset Sarsaparilla warehouse. We had an idea where there is a town that invited one as a freebie. They invited Vim as a freebie, which then attracted the attention of Nuka-Cola, who have been trying to sabotage Vim. So they showed up, and then the Sunset Sarsaparilla was already in the region, but like a little bit further out. And they did this so that they could potentially get themselves better, like, their economy was pretty crap, so they wanted to make it so that they could build up their economy by making their town all about soda, and then it backfired because all of these people can be pretty cutthroat and just started sabotaging the actual town itself until the war happened. So, an interesting story we can have with the three of them. We're also thinking about making something of a Big Red parody, which is a soda that is Texas-based. And we're thinking about calling it Major Crimson. and we weren't sure if we wanted to make that like a Vim or a Sunset Sarsaparilla thing, or just its own independent soda company. I think independent soda company wouldn't make sense if we have these three here, but if we had it so that like Vim brought out something that was supposed to be like a big red parody, and it's like they made this thing that's really good in Texas, and it's like this is kind of their last Hail Mary in this region since they don't have to pay as much taxes and everything. They threw out this new soda that did start to gain popularity in Texas, but then like Nuka Cola could have something where they're like, Major Crimson, that sounds communist to me, which then could cause a controversy and everything. The Mill, which is the Shred home base. The Shred is the specifically the Raider side of the Matriarchs, which is the Raider gang. They use a band to intimidate their enemies into allowing them to beat them a lot easier and everything. Vault Tech facilities, we have a regional HQ, a secret vault filled with modified FEV vats sealed at the beginning of the game. This is part of the story of Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, so I wanted to keep it. And then we made a couple of vault ideas. We don't want to have this one have so many vaults, actually. I think that it makes sense that the vaults are kind of hidden themselves, and only having a couple of different vaults to have it so that there is something, but allows us the creativity to do what we want in the Fallout universe. So it's still there, but it's not necessarily a huge part of it. Vault 80 is a vault studying the ability of the masses to create structure when presented with none. So a vault about anarchy, including like this vault would just have a bunch of people, and then there would be no scientists or no vault tech personnel. So like the doors would close and they would be stuck there without anyone, and then the actual overseer and everything would be hidden inside the walls, similar to how Vault 88 was, so they can just study what happens with these people. Vault 85, a vault test that tested the consumption of media stocked with holotapes, games, and several other distractions, designed to have things break to test how distracted population might react. So vault where equipment breaks, but the machines and media stuff does not, to test if the added addictions and everything of media and like games and everything will make it so that people prioritize that over their own survival. Bunkers in the area around Dallas and Carbon, including Lone Star Bunker and Los. Los was another location in Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which was a ghoul city with a bunch of like basically a necropolis too. It was real cool, but kind of not well put together. So the thought with that is we would make it a location still, but we would change its purpose. So the Los Bunker would be a bunker that was taken over by ghouls, and the cultists in the area of Los, for the purpose, like they didn't want the Brotherhood in the region. So whatever the Texas Brotherhood was, the Texan Brotherhood, was taken away from their main place, and then they ended up falling back to the Lone Star Bunker in Dallas, which I think would be an interesting way to do it. Then we have characters. We have Addis, which is part of the new Unity, the Machine, and then 3 lieutenants. We hadn't gotten much farther than getting it so that we just kind of put down the characters to pen. We want to do more where we flesh out these characters and make it so that we have an interesting super mutant faction here. We have the Shred, which is the matriarchs. Again, just gonna do that so I don't forget. Jane is the Shred's Raider matriarch. She's actually not the Raider part of it. She's on the other part of the faction. She's trying to build a new civilization free of the shackles of the old world. She uses her knowledge from her time in the Followers of the Apocalypse to rebuild a mill and create a settlement ruled by her raider class. John, right-hand man of Jane, as well as her brother. John is one of the three leaders of the raiders on neighboring towns. In neighboring towns. No, on raiders who raid neighboring towns. John is also responsible for the creation of the band, also named the Shred, because they are the matriarchs, not the Shred. Named the Shred to use as a tactic to scare towns and villages into surrendering. Goes by the epitaph of the manager, in charge of entertainment in the mill. So, John, Josephina, Sally, Plum Bum Boron, Steel, and Tin Man are all new characters. Jane is the only one from the original game. She was pretty one note in the original. She was a character who just was the first boss you fought, really. And the Shreds. I'm gonna rewrite this at some point, but basically she's the only one from the original game. I wanted to keep her. I gave her a brother, and then she has a story which is not in here, so I'll probably have to write that down at some point. She was part of the Followers of the Apocalypse, and then got captured by Kaiser's Legion and was enslaved. Her brother saved her, and her brother used to be a gentle and kind person, but in the process of losing his sister and then having to sacrifice everything to get her back, he turned into a darker character who now is in charge of the raiding side of their new civilization. And it really breaks her heart because she just wants her brother back, and he's just so messed up that he can't really be her brother anymore. We have Josephina Joe. She goes by Joe, but she's Josephina. Joe. The Shred's crack sniper. She is the second of three leaders of the raiders on neighboring towns. Josephina's epitaph is Joe. She specializes in reconnaissance and guerrilla warfare when needed. In charge of sentry duty around the mill. She is the goddaughter of Cain. So the plan with the Shred is to make it so that they are a faction in the game and that you actually have to make choices around them. One of the choices is around Josephina, who feels pretty abandoned by her godfather because he wasn't around when she actually was kidnapped and force conscripted into the Shred. And there's a chance to help her escape them and become her own person again, as well as help reconcile with Cain. But there's also the chance that you kill her and lose Cain as a follower, or if you're the player, you lose your goddaughter, and that would affect your character and potentially make it so that you're distracted, so you lose some stats somewhere. Maybe you lose some charisma or something like that because you're just so devastated by losing her. It's a permanent staff debuff. We have Sally, the Shred's bruiser. She is the third and final leader of the Raiders. She specializes in close quarters combat and a blitzkrieg style offensive for taking from nearby towns. Sally's epitaph is the boxer. She is in charge of the farming in the mill. So each person who is a raider also has another level of what they're doing in the matriarch. And with John, his is specifically, he manages the band. He also recruits troops and makes it so that they can fight better. They're trainers and everything. Josephina is the sniper, and she has a visual around the mill. And then you have Sally, who's the farmer and everything. So, like, each of them has a secondary duty other than raiding, but they go out and raid and take people from their homes and make them into indentured servants based on what Kaiser's Legion did, so they can kind of change them from what they are and make it so that each of them are part of this new culture and build a place that is safe in this new world. So then we have the band, the eponymous Shred, and that is Plumbum Filati, the guitarist of the Shred band, can only speak a few words at a time with great effort. He is a ghoul as well as an engineer. Boron Miso, the drummer of the Shred, he is carefree, only getting serious when it's time to play drums or protect his friends. Steel Do Rey, singer of the Shred, he is the youngest member of the band, but longest captive to the Raiders. Steel Do Rey, I think, was the one who proposed the band. I think that he wanted to make it so that there was something for them to do other than raiding people, because he was forced into that role because he wasn't really good at much other than singing. So he grabbed one of the people. I think Boron and him were the first to make the band, and then Plumbum and Tin Man followed suit. Tin Man DC is a synth who plays theremin for the Shred band, isn't quite sentient, but the constant tinkering of Plumbum has brought them closer than ever before. Only says one-word sentences. Wears clothes due to what is assumed to be a glitch where Tin Man proclaims cold until another layer is set upon him. So the whole thing with Tin Man is he's pre-programmed with a lot of different things to make it so that he is able to play all of the songs and everything. And he is close to Nick Valentine's level of, like, how Nick Valentine was built, but he doesn't have everything that he needs to be able to be sentient like Gen 3 synths, or even what Nick and Deimos, I think his name is Deimos, Nick's brother have, which Nick and Deimos are like Gen 2.5 or 2.75 synths. So their Tin Man DC is a similar level where he's like if they were a 2.5 level synth or a Gen 2 synth, then he'd be a Gen 1.5. So he's very much similar, as we can see in the drawing. He is definitely like the Gen 1 synths, less mannequin-like because of the work of Plumbum Filati, because a lot of his stuff was taken away from him to make it easier to build him up. He has striped pants, he has a Santa Claus jacket, and he has a Voltec t-shirt. It's actually a crop top, I believe. Which is sad that we lost all that, but that's okay. He also has his shoes were cleats based on a specific thing, and I don't remember what it is anymore. I think it was based on the first ever cleats, but the company it was before it was cleats, I think, was it Puma? I think Puma had a different name before it was Puma, and that's what his cleats are based on. Anyways, then we have the Brotherhood, and with them, we want to make it so that the Brotherhood of Steel connects much closer to Tactics, because Tactics, genuinely, to me, would have been the best game in the Fallout series if it wasn't rushed. And you can say that about a lot of the Fallout games, because Fallout 1 does feel a little bit buggy, but not that buggy comparatively to others. Fallout 2 is definitely buggy, but like is the best of the old Fallouts, and then Tactics is just so broken that certain parts of it are just not fun to play because it's so bugged. And like certain things are excluded in the game due to that. But like the story of this game, I think, relates to that game because the new Unity stole things from Vault Zero from Brotherhood Tactics. Like, it was bricked at the end canonically, or semi-canonically because of the way that Bethesda does it. But it was bricked at the end, so the new Unity were able to break into Vault Zero and steal a lot of the components and run away to Texas when the Brotherhood had lowered the amount of people they had in it, since it wasn't really a useful vault. So the Brotherhood then sent a detachment down with Garfield Barnaky, who people might recognize Barnaky as Simon Barnaky, was one of the characters in Fallout Tactics. Garfield is his son or grandson, I don't remember. Because he does talk about how he has a wife, he doesn't mention kids, but it's plausible that he would have kids. So Garfield is his son, and then he has a daughter who is one of the main characters, because we want to make it so that these games connect in a good way. So Garfield is the leader of a detachment sent to investigate the presence of the Unity remnants in Texas. Went ahead of the initiates with the rest of the paladins and knights to find a bunker in which to set up shop in the region. He had asked them to remain in the town of Carbon. Garfield is plagued by two thoughts continuing to wander into his mind: the safety of his daughter, who the Elder forced him to bring, and his hatred of any cybernetic augmentations due to his great-great-grandfather, Simon Barnaky's untimely demise to machine augmenting. I don't know if that makes sense, just because of the timelines. I'd have to check. Fallout Tactics start year. 2197, and our game is 3 years after that. 2282. Okay, so what is the start year of? Because I'm sure that I thought this through. Fallout New Vegas start year. No. What year is 2281? Yeah, so it's a year after. So that is 90 years. So I don't think it'd be great. That is not the right thing. Calculator. 2282, because our start year, and then we have 2197. Oh, gosh darn it. Minus 2197. That's 85 years. So if we have it so that he had a kid, so Elizabeth is around 20, I'd say. And he would be around 22 when he had her. And then I'd say 24 for the next one. Yeah, no, that makes sense, actually. I did do the math. Huh. Okay, so great-great-grandfather. I didn't think I actually did the math there. That's weird. Anyways, so we have it so that Simon Barnaky, at the end of Brotherhood Tactics, was turned into a cyborg to fight against the Brotherhood of Steel, and he is one of the final bosses in that game. And that would cause his family to be really uncomfortable with the thought of cybernetic augmentations, I think. So then we have our first main character, which is Nadia, originally from Ohio. A tragedy her parents faced while she was still young forced them. I need to look at a U.S. map as well, so I can make sure all of this makes sense. Of states. Because the Midwestern Brotherhood... So we have it, so Ohio is right here. The Midwestern, I think, was based in Chicago originally, and then they made their way this way. So maybe not Ohio. Maybe we could change that to Kansas or Oklahoma, because that would make sense on their way. Otherwise, they ended up going all the way back and then over and then down. Let's change that from Ohio to something else. Originally from Let's say southern Kansas. Let's not capitalize that. Tragedy her parents faced while she was still young forced them to move from place to place. Oh, okay, so she was actually... Okay, no, that actually still makes sense. But I don't really like that because it means that they somehow were able to move all the way over to Oklahoma. That's very dangerous for normal people, so maybe we make it Illinois because then that's a state across. Well, maybe northern Missouri. Let's do northern Missouri. How do you spell Missouri? Okay. A tragedy her parents faced while she was still young forced them to move from place to place, hiding wherever they went. Eventually, they landed in Oklahoma, where her parents' pursuers caught up to them and orphaned young Nadia. She grew up rough on on the dusty streets of one of the urban settlements that litter the wasteland. With a few friends and fewer comforts, life revolved around foraging for food, stealing money, and avoiding attention of the thugs that ran the town. I'm pretty sure I copied this from the data they had in general for her, and I didn't really fix it up. I don't remember quite what I did there. Where her parents' pursuers caught up to them and orphaned young Nadia. She grew up rough on the blah 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 blah. I already said that. Life revolved around foraging for food, stealing money, and avoiding the... I should probably say stealing. No, because I don't like caps. Caps were one of the things that were going to be rarer in this game, because in the older Fallout games, they had it so they were moving away from caps by Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics actually had several modes of currency, including caps, but you also had pole tops, which are a big Midwestern thing at this time. So I think pole caps are the way, so I'm going to keep that as money. And avoiding the attention of the thugs that ran the town. Then one day, a troop of Brotherhood soldiers passed through the town. After searching it for salvageable technology, they cleaned out the trash and scum that had been running the place and fed the hungry. And then, as quickly as they had arrived, they left. Nadia, seeing the chance for a better life, followed, and now they have given her a challenge, an initiation, to determine whether or not she shall join their ranks. So she joined, basically, if we're looking at this map, let's do a snipping tool. So, if she were anywhere, she would be like here. So she joined, I think, last, and then they ended up in Carbon here. With, we'll do those things with each of these people. A mercenary, Kane is a ghoul through and through. Stooped, skeletal, and bony, he inspires fear at a glance. When Kane finally decided to take steady work and guard a town near the ruins of Graham, he found himself enjoying the company of the townsfolk and eventually decided he was going to retire from the mercenary life. Unfortunately, when he was out hunting for meat for the village, the town was attacked and destroyed. Looking through the wreckage, Kane found few clues as to who the assailants were. A name, an epitaph, and a banner. It was enough for him to put together the pieces that John, the manager of the Shred, had destroyed his home. Taking all those easy enough to enslave, including his goddaughter, Kane sought out the Brotherhood of Steel and demanded entry. As a somewhat anti-mutant order, the Brotherhood was reluctant to grant him admission, but Kane's perseverance was fueled with a grim determination. He was finally given a test of initiation to guard the leader's daughter, Elizabeth, from any super mutant threat. Kane would do anything to eliminate the man who hurt his goddaughter. So, I don't remember where Graham is, so let's look. Is that a Texas town? Maps. So I think he was the last to join, because he is like, if we're looking at the map, we have it so that he starts like where this one is. So he ends up going there to Carbon, and then we have Cyrus. Cyrus grew up in a small semi-tribal farming community, weathering the usual wasteland hazards of raiders, rat scorpions, and the like. When his town was devastated by a super mutant army calling themselves the New Unity, they took his family when Cyrus was just a boy, only narrowly escaping by hiding in a mole rat burrow. So I actually might have changed this from what the original was, as well as I have changed this again. Because the way I want Cyrus to be, I want Cyrus to be the leader of the group in general. And part of that is he was doing his test to become the next chief. And it was only him and the shaman who were away from the town doing his last test when the town was attacked. So this may completely change. I'm actually going to highlight this. Where's the highlight? Paint format. Text color. There it is. Highlight. So we're going to highlight that because we're probably going to change it. But let's read the rest of it just in case. Only narrowly escaping by hiding in a mole rat burrow, he wandered like many of the adrift in the wilderness youths, here and there, hearing stories every now and then about the New Unity army and the forces that opposed the original Unity. Eventually finding his way to the doors of the Midwest Brotherhood of Steel, Cyrus requested their aid in defeating this new Unity. The Brotherhood, seeing Cyrus as a strong and intelligent young man, allowed him entrance within their order. He was sent out on an initiation to test his resolve and his determination in facing this new Unity. So, if we go back to our map, I believe he probably started, let's do another one, he'll be black. He probably started here and moved up to the Brotherhood, which I think Vault Zero was somewhere in Kansas. And then he went back down to Carbon. So, like, that's how their paths all intersect. He was there second longest after Elizabeth Barnacky, who was our new character who we added to this game, kind of to replace the Vault Dweller, but also because we wanted to have our own character. Elizabeth Barnacky, daughter to the leader of the small detachment of the Midwestern Brotherhood of Steel, headed to Texas, Elizabeth Busy Barnacky came all the way from Chicago to prove herself. It is clear that her father had no intentions of letting her go with him to fight the potential super mutant threat, but with coaxing from the current elder of the Midwestern Brotherhood of Steel, Busy was allowed to go with his attachment as an initiation test. Tirelessly jumping into any challenge she accepted, Busy only wishes to impress her father and continue the honor and legacy of the Barnacky lineage. So with her, let's do, can we customize? Okay, we don't want blue, we want green, I'm gonna say. So when Cyrus went to the Vault Zero, which was raided by the super mutants, they sent a message to the Michigan one because Cyrus had better intel. So then they moved on, and whilst they were moving, they did basically forced march with Cyrus and the small detachment that was here, and then they went this way and down to Carbon. So they didn't go to Vault Zero, but they went close to it to catch up to Cyrus's group. In fact, Cyrus's group might have went and been like, yo, we're going this way and then this way, so that they could keep up with each other, because safety in numbers, as well as if they're moving all the way this way, it's going to be a hard trek. Though the Midwestern Brotherhood does have the advantage of clearing out a lot of the threats in the region of this area. If we, they basically cleared a lot of Michigan, and then this, and then this, and then this. So they made it so this area is less unsafe to travel, but it's still unsafe. So these people going down here, it probably took them a good. They probably heard about this threat when the events of New Vegas were happening. They then went up, went down, and by the time they got back down, it's been a year. So, yeah, it took them a while. So then these are factions that we added or that were already in the game. We have the Reina Hiveweaver, which is the bee queen. Beha, which is a bee follower. I wanted to make it so that you can have a little bee that goes on your shoulder and calls other bees to help you in the region. Colmenar Garcia is the high apiarist of the Honey Bastion, leading the nearly religious cult following the Bee Queen. Lundy Clark is the elder beekeeper, leader of the Grand Guard, who protects the realm of Honey Bastion. And then we have Carulo Peterson, the high scholar of the honey. She is the holder of the books and records of the chronicling of the history of Honey Bastion. I'm going to get something to drink. We're back. Too much talking, right, guys? So, anyways, where were we? The Caravaneer. I haven't figured out a name for them, but they start a trade route in Carbon, the Honey Bastion, and the Dallas Ruins to sell honey, as well as they sell different things that are bee related. So, beeswax candles and things like that to people around the region. And that's kind of how the Honey Bastion makes their money to buy enough food for themselves. Because although they have honey, they don't have much else. Renfa is an old Renaissance fair, like I was saying. And Ancano Williams, the king of Renfa, an old ghoul who was seen as the last hope of the Renaissance fair during and after the Great War. He begrudgingly led his people to a new place to settle and chronicled knowledge of those amongst his camp who knew arbory, carpentry, botany, cooking, and survivalism. Hoping to one day rekindle society, he outlawed the use of anything one could not manufacture within his walls other than in dire circumstances. So they are semi-nomadic. They set up a base for 10 to 30 years about, and they teach the locals about all of the different methods of botany, cooking, survivalism, arbory, carpentry, and tries to make regions better. This Renaissance fair was a big one that went from, if we go to our map again, and do customize, we'll make it so that they are, what's a Renaissance color? Let's say aqua. So they started somewhere in like Idaho, and then they went to Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, and finally settled over here. So they've had stops in each of these places trying to teach people ways to live outside of whatever. And they've been around since the world ended. The Great War. They were in a place here that was pretty well cushioned from the nuclear warheads and everything. But the radiation eventually killed most of his friends. He ghoulified with a few, and now recruits people from each of these places, but goes on ahead and keeps the knowledge alive, really. And I think at this point he's tired of traveling, so this has been one of the longest places he's set up residence. Whereas before they were staying places 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. This one I think is the one that he stayed for like 30 to 40 years just because he does not want to move again. Because he sees no point in it anymore. Arbel Santos, the arborist, a grouchy old ghoul, so he's one of the only ones who's also like alive from that time. Grouchy old ghoul who is mad at, that his trees don't grow right and that the wood that was nearly ready to harvest and had grown right were cut down and stolen by the shred. So this guy, since they've been there for 30 to 40 years, had planted a forest that he was planning on harvesting so that he didn't have to use the crap wood from around the region, and had been building this forest up so that he could start cutting down certain parts, reseeding it, and then like grabbing the next section, and so on to rebuild the Renfa into something bigger. And then the shred just came around and stole all of their wood. Because remember, the shred are trying to rebuild civilization. And Jane is not always privy to what Jean is doing, or the other leaders. I think this was actually Sally who did this one, because she's a farmer and she wanted to break down the wood to make better fertilizer because she saw it as quality wood. And the shred, they are, if we're carbon here, actually we should figure out where carbon actually is. Texas. Yeah, carbon's a little bit further south. So if they are here, then if we look at our map again, we would have it so that the shred and the matriarch is probably, let's do red, well, no, not actually, let's do fuchsia for them. They would be in between the Renaissance Fair and Carbon over here. So actually, they would have been close to where Cyrus started his journey too, which is how they know Addis, because Addis and them have a secret alliance. Anyways, so then we have minor raiders. So our raiders who are less flavorful, the ones that are like generic raiders, are going to be the Nuka folks, the Vim Vagabonds, and the Sunset Gang. And they are based around the warehouses that are near-ish to Carbon, but not quite in Carbon. They are based around those locations, and they're all around the wastes, gathering stuff to try and make it so they can make new Nuka-Cola, Vim, and Sunset, and they're constantly warring with each other. There may be quests here, but if we're going to have any generics, that's what the generics are going to be, because you can imply the story there that they took over a warehouse and just kind of started using the equipment for themselves. So the Carbon residents, these are the ones in the original game. These are some more original people. So we have Vidya, who is a follower of the Apocalypse, who is now the town medic. Jesse, arms merchant in the town of Carbon, as well as the mill. Ruby, a prostitute in the town of Carbon. Armpit, a barkeep in the town of Carbon, not two of Carbon. That'd be awkward. That'd be dicarbon. There we go. Of Carbon with some ideas on new ways to make alcohol. Mayor Richards, the mayor of the town, and a traitor to his town, which is similar to what happens with Mayor McDonough in Fallout 4, but this game did it first, so I'm keeping it. Hero Passes Prime as well. So with each of these characters, I want to flesh them out. We were going to flesh them out when we drew them, because we're planning on drawing every character before we model them, and there's a lot of them. I have some ideas for some of them, like Armpit. I want to make into more of like the guy who, like, he is trying to change how the town acts. He is the one who employs Ruby, who is the prostitute of the town, or at least gives her shelter and a place to do her business. He is the owner of a diner that is like pretty broken up, but he's been building it and repairing it and everything. And then he has his distillery that he is trying to figure out new ideas on how to make alcohol. One of which is the game quest in the game that you don't get to complete because the Matrix come in and kill him. But basically, he wants to use rad scorpion venom to enhance the flavor of the alcohol because he has some new recipe that he's thinking of. Jesse is a dude who has like a Brahmin drawn van, and I have some ideas with him where, so campers are not common in Fallout, so what I want to do with him is have it so that he has a model that came out right before the war, so there's not that many, and he's a collector. So he would have quests where you collect things for him, and he then gives you better deals for his arms, as well as builds out his arms merchandise for you to buy from. Vidya, as a follower of the apocalypse, I think she is... No, she's not. I thought she was this one. But she's not. Because that's the Vault Dweller. So I'm not going to have the Vault Dweller be the protagonist from the original Fallout, because I think that's really stupid. No offense to having him in the game. It doesn't make sense timeline-wise. And also, he's already had his adventure. He doesn't need more. We're doing these new characters who, sure, it's later in the timeline than Brotherhood of Steel, but I think that makes it so we can do what we want. This hero past his prime, I think if we're going to put him into the game, he's going to be some sort of hero who was a hero to one of the factions, or like stopped some great catastrophe from happening in the past. Like, there is a region, which I don't know if I've actually written down in here, we'll see in a second, but he could be the one who prevented it from spreading further. We also had Nazca Farmer, which I think is because we're so close to Mexico, as well as just close to New Mexico, Arizona, where like that could be plausible. We were thinking about adding a character who is similar to that, or having a faction who is similar to that. We haven't really gotten any ideas for our assets yet. We want to do 3D models, not 2D models. The 2D were more for the sprites, or like faces and things like that. Ideas that I don't have time to slot into their places yet. The Rot. Okay, this is what I was talking about when it comes to the Hero Passes Prime. The Rot, a fungal area where a nuke landed upon a vault and supercharged the fungus. Everyone surrounding the area works together to keep the rot from spreading. So the rot is south of Carbon, and we're going to do this as, if we have a radioactive, lime green. The rot is going to be like here, and there are going to be towns surrounding the rot. So basically, you start in Carbon, your people started heading towards the rot, but we're going around it. And you have a choice to go around it as well, or to find protective suits that allow you to go through the rot. As well as the rot would probably be where the secret vault is. But landed upon a vault. So I think there was actually another vault in that region, which was going to be testing funguses and such. And then a nuke hit it, and with that nuke hitting directly on it, because it veered off course or whatever, it then supercharged all this fungus, killed all the people within it, and then made it so there's just a radius where this rock keeps on expanding outwards, and everyone on the outside of it are quarantining it and trying to keep it from spreading any further. COC characters, I'm not sure if we want to have it so that you can create your own character on a New Game Plus or whatever, but we wanted to make it so that potentially COC characters, when you create them in the New Game Plus, you can choose a new character, and every new game that you do, those COCs then become citizens of the town and populate the town of Carbon. I think that would be a really cool thing, because then it's like you have the history of those characters, and you can do something like the New Game Plus where you allow the stat boost for non-COC characters, as well as unlocking new characters and changing the story through differing characters at pivotal moments. What I mean there is you would have it so that as you do more New Game Pluses, if you're building up your stats for your non-COC characters and having it so that they become stronger, they can potentially stop something from happening with your convincing. Whereas in the first run, they probably couldn't have done that. And with New Game Plus, you would reset your level down to 0, but you would gain something in your special stats. So like Cyrus, let's say he's a strength 5. In his next run, you can choose to give him another strength, making it easier. You can also just choose to have it so that he is singularly just as leveled as he was before. So like regular special stats. Raven Cult, a group to the west of the Rot who worship ravens that are immune to the Rot and give them offerings. So I love ravens, and not only that, I wanted to make it so that there is birds in this game that you might have to fight. And with ravens being immune to the Rot, I think that other birds are not. So one of the biggest threats for the Rot being able to go out there is things like vultures. And the only thing stopping them was someone who used to kept ravens, and they bred out of control until they're these huge creatures that are just kind of like taking over a section of the Texas where they're like, if we have the Rot there, the ravens would be surrounding a section of the Rot, and that's the reason it hasn't been able to spread in that direction. And like vultures and things like that wouldn't be able to be much bigger. Grunge, a super mutant clone of Addis who can be unlocked to play as in subsequent playthroughs, can only say grunge, idiot savant. So our thought with his character is he's a 0 to 1 intelligence build that's very strong, very good at melee, and he looks like Addis. So if you're able to get him up stat-wise to the point where he can at least talk, he can potentially trick people into thinking he's Addis to make the game quicker. So that's all we had built beforehand for our Brotherhood of Steel boyo. I wonder if he's still... Yeah, he's still. Then we drew some characters. And you might have seen some of these already. We have Untitled. This is Buick's for sale. This is the most important thing I've ever drawn. It was for Slenderfisher, and he didn't respond to say anything about it, and I'm very disappointed in him. I'm not actually. He was working. But he asked me to draw it for some reason, and I've just been so amused that I've kept it around. So we started these streams by building the band. And the point of the band is they made it so that they had different robots that they stood upon or drove to be able to do their band stuff together and look intimidating. So this guy just stands on a Mr. Handy with 3 saw blades that attack anything that comes near, and he just does his shred ass voice while doing that. That's Steel Do Re. Then we have Boron Miso, and he's got his atomic hair kind of thing that's in his face, only barely showing his eyes, and he just drums the hell out of everything. And he has a sentry bot that he welded a drum kit to, and he sits inside of the husk of this sentry bot. I think that he probably made it so that he changed where the power source was, which was where his back would be. It's either still there and he's sitting on it, which I think he would not feel safe with, or he set it so that he welded it to work in the wheels. And I'll have to figure out exactly how I want to do that. Then we have Plum Bum Filati. He's a ghoul who plays the guitar. He can't really talk very much. He has a sentry bot as his amp that he has built out to be even more of an amp. And then he built Tin Man DC, who does a little dance while he's playing the theremin, and he has pre-programmed songs that he can do with the band. Otherwise, he just kind of like has an algorithm that allows him to play things that he thinks will sound right when the band is like riffing and such. Then we have Cyrus. Cyrus was my favorite person to draw. I did some work on him later on, and that's why he looks cleaner than everyone else, whereas they're kind of blurry and we lost all of his freaking live streams, and he was the coolest character that we drew, and we had such a fun time drawing him. We drew his full face, and then we gave him a mask, and then he still has his symbols that he has in it on his head here. We tried to give him those symbols again, and we based it closer to the concept art rather than what it was before. And I think he just turned out so excellent when it comes to like the musculature and the different things around his body. I love his shorts. I love the little metal plates that he has around just to try and keep himself safe. Then we did Nadia. And Nadia was one of the last ones. I don't know how to draw boobs. I can't do it. I tried, and it looked terrible. So, like, with this one, I think I would redraw it completely. And just try again. But the idea we had with her is she's kind of, like, messy, and, like, as you can tell by her hair, it's very wild hair. And she's just kind of, like, other than her hair, very stealthy and such. So Cyrus would be like the, if we go back to our group actually here, we have it so that we have the 4 major characters. So let's give them some highlight. 1, 2, come on, 3 and 4. So out of these 4, I think that Nadia would be more of the sniper or the like the gunsman of the group, but not like heavy guns. With Kane, he is more of the all-rounder. He can use anything because he has a lot of experience as a mercenary in general. Cyrus would be the bruiser, the boxer, lots of melee experience because of his tribal ties and everything, but also very good with heavy weapons. And then Elizabeth, my thought with her was she is a psyker, and she can use her psyker abilities to buff everyone. So she has like buffing abilities as well as she's able to use energy weapons. But energy weapons are rare, so she has an energy pistol at the beginning, and you don't get energy weapons until way later in the game. Whew. Alright. It's been an hour long. along so far? Okay. Let's look at Fallout Brotherhood of Steel map. Oh, I'm not on the right spot for that. Oops. So our thought with this, if we can actually find, yeah. So Midwestern Brotherhood, you can see that they're Missouri, Midwestern, and the Kansas, I think. So very similar to what I was saying. They have this area, or no, they're Illinois. Ha! I am dumb. Chicago is in Illinois. Okay, let's change this. I guess that's a bit embarrassing. Only a bit, right? So they would be going from here down and over. Let's erase that original one. But like that still goes true. They would have like this area, maybe a little bit less of that. They might have a little bit of Michigan, but not very much. Most of Indiana, and then Missouri. So they would have like this area as their territory, kind of. And then I think they are a major player in that. Brotherhood of Steel. What? I'm hoping we can update our political map once Fallout 4 is released. Just NCR. 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 That is pretty funny. I love the fact that people really want the NCR to just take over. No, but like Lois and Carbon right here. That is not what I want still. Still not what I want. I'm sure I won't be able to find a map on here, but I was hoping. Not 22.4. That's the closest I found. Oh, looking at this, I want to make a canonical reason why the Fallout Tactics armor is the way it is. And I think part of that is we're going to make it so that there is the regular power armor, and then the BN series, which is one that the Midwest made, which is less protective overall, but allows you to go faster. So it's basically something that's really good for melee types, because they were trying to account for the tribals that they were adding to their ranks in Fallout Tactics. That's closer to what the game looks like. Okay, let's see. Maybe the wiki will help us. Locations. Okay, so playable characters. Love how that's just like, yep, we got Carbon, Lois, and Corporate Volt. Because there's only 3 acts in the game and only 3 towns in the game, which is real weird. So, in this, you can see... Yeah, I kept a large portion of his backstory in place. And I used his concept art to draw my concept art. And then we have her. I tried to use some of her concept art, and I didn't like it. So, I like her hair, though. These are non-playable characters who might join the game, but we don't know yet. And one of the biggest issues with the game is actually they have the 3 places, and with each place, the people become less interesting. So, yeah. What I want to do is figure out a way to look at Carbon as it is. I might play it on my own and take pictures of it, so I have references so that I can use my Unreal engine and rebuild it from the ground up. With Unreal, let's see if this works. Epic Games. Unreal launch. Let's hope it doesn't do an update again. That was fun last time. Man, it is warm in this room. What's this? Hey, launch? Hello? Launch? Launch? While we're waiting for that, I guess let's yeah, so with her, I don't like her. Like at all. With him, I think just cleaning up the line work. Why is he mosaic? I'm not sure why he's mosaic, but that's interesting. Anyways, basically I would just go through and redraw this quickly as just all of the lines that I already have. Some of them would be hard, like the guitar strings and such, and like getting this nice look for the guitar with the lighter spots and everything, but I may do that in future streams. And that would just be a stream for each of these to clean them up, or maybe one or two. With her, I have no idea what I want to do. Because I don't want to keep her the same way as she is. I do want to keep her a bit bulkier, because I think that makes sense. You would want to be bulkier with armor in general for like what she's wearing. I don't think this is a realistic depiction of a person for a wasteland. Nope, I have two opening. Let's exit out of one of them. We're at 9%. Oh boy. Yeah, so this is what Kane looked like while we're waiting for that. Or it'll have an advert. So I want to make him look a little different than this. And I like the zombified look, but I don't think it makes sense for modern day ghouls. So I was thinking of basing him closer on a couple of different ghouls. Because I think he is near pre-war, but not quite pre-war. So we would go for something that's like... We're going to need to bring up a few pictures. Hancock. Fallout. Not that one. So we have Hancock. We have Set, I think his name is. Because he's older ghoul, he may end up having it so that he's pretty messed up in general. Do you have any good pictures of him? I really like the way Set looks though. And I think that the red eye from Set makes sense to have. So like this guy. I think having it so that he's a little bit more warped and messed up would make sense. Also, the fact that he has a hearing aid that's a giant speaker, pretty freaking awesome. This, I kind of like the dark eye. I would say maybe having it so that he has heterochromia, but it's because one of his eyes just doesn't work anymore. So he has a crappy eye in general. I think that would make sense. But something like, ooh, that's a cool ass picture. God, I love that. Love that so much. Anyways, before I get more distracted by this, Kane I think is going to be a mixture of old school and new school ghoul. So like he won't have the nose, he'll still have like the warbles all over his flesh, but like his eyes, one of them I think might have like one of those skin flaps that goes across it, and then it'll have it so that the eye is black, and then the other one will be straight red. And maybe even bloodshot. I think that would make sense. I think it would look cool. And we will see. Because I think part of good characters is not only character design, of course. Oh man, I miss older Fallout helmets. They look so cool. and someone. Oh, I love it. Anyways, we also want to think about special stats in general. So we have strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. Um, and I've got to think about how many you get from them in general for each game, and think of what my most I would want to do with it. So in Fallout 4, it is possible to permanently get 11 in all special stats by having 10 in all special stats throughout character creation and spending perk points, and then using the respective bobbleheads. Okay. Yeah, but I want to know how many you get just from. How much special stats do you get per Fallout game? It's very loud. Yeah, that I know what the max is. The special system has remained mostly consistent throughout the Fallout series, as has been the case since Fallout. The character's special attributes default to 5 points per attribute, with an additional 5 points to be distributed during character creation for a total of 40 points. So 40 points. Okay, I'm going to build all their special stats out, so I can figure out what exactly I want. Do it like S P E C I A L, and let us copy, paste. Oops. I don't want that, so let's. Do none. Enter. I hate it. I hate it so much. None. None. Okay, there we go. Don't know why that's so hard to do. It's real annoying. Copy. Paste. And paste. Okay, so Caden's the one I want to start with because we know a couple of his stats, or at least the basis of it. So actually what I'm going to do with each of these is do 5 across the board. And then we're going to have at the end of this, add, and then 5. And then we're going to do this, copy, paste, paste. We're also going to do this for him, just so we have it specialized. Because I think every character should have their stats. So anyways, for Cyrus, we want to have perception be lower, and I think he is a 3 for perception because he's blind in one eye. So that brings us up to 7. I think he's relatively lucky. He is faster than most people. He is not as strong because he's a ghoul. He, I think, has charisma because he's lived a long time, but he's very intelligent. So that brings us down to 4. So I think, once again, luck again, and agility again, which brings us down to 2. Let's give him a little bit more endurance. Oh, whoops. 6. And then we will give him that little bit extra intelligence. And that'll bring him down to 0 ads. I think that's a fair spread for him. Barnacky is going to have more intelligence in general. I mean, she's an 8. Which brings us down to 2. I think she's not lucky. I think she's unlucky, if anything. Brings us to 3. And then she is probably going to be not that strong as well. So 4, 2, or... I'm a bit confused now. So 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4. Okay, we're at 4. So then her perception would be a little bit higher than normal as well. I think she's at a 7 there. Brings us to a 2. And then I think she's a little bit more agile, as well as a bit more endurance. Puts her at 0 now. So I think that's a good spread for her. With I gave him I gave Cyrus Kane's. Oops. Paste. Copy. Paste. Okay, so with Cyrus, I think he's a little bit stronger. A little bit more endured in general. A bit more charismatic since he is a leader in general. About average intelligence. Not as agile. And probably about as lucky, so we have -1, -1, -2, +1. Okay, so we have 2 more points to give, and I think that's going to go to strength and intelligence. Let's give him a little bit more intelligence. And then we have Nadia, who I think is going to be the most agile out of everyone. She's going to be an 8 or a 9 in agility. So let's start at 8. She is definitely unlucky. She's not as strong. Perceptive is all hell. I think she's about normal endurance. I think probably a little bit more charisma. I'm gonna make her 9 that, and then let's do that. So I'm doing this based off of what they told me, which is 5 in each thing and then 5 added. So that's our main characters all statted up. We have Nadia at 575669 We have Kane at 4365877. We have Cyrus at 7567645. And then we have Elizabeth or Busy at 4765864. I think that makes sense, especially with Elizabeth being more of a psyker. She should definitely have higher intelligence. Hmm. Okay. Wow. He's still going. 3 hours strong. I did an hour before, and now I'm doing another hour and a half. I was super frustrated earlier because the Banner Lord thing. That was so upsetting. I don't know about you guys, but it's rough when your stuff just doesn't want to work. So I want to make it so the special stats do make their way into this. I think that would be under mechanics. I gotta figure out exactly how I want to do that though, because we have special stats, but we gotta figure out what each of these do and what they affect. So with that, I think we'll do a subgroup. Yeah, that's right. Hmm. What is this song? Cozy playlist. You're ruining it. Going to the next. So we have strength. We should probably perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. So with luck, that's kind of the easiest to define. We have it so that it's got uh, it affects random encounters on map. Good slash bad, I should say. So affects random encounters on map, good slash bad. Affects RNG for loot. Slash gear. So that's what luck will do. Which, as a squad, we have to figure out how exactly that works. Is it that we... I'm thinking it is always a 4-man squad. So we start with our primary 4-man squad, which you can do a COC or one of these 4. And you can unlock certain ones, such as Grunge and others. And Grunge is a reference to Gary. Because Gary is hilarious. And I love Gary clones. They're the best. But yeah, I'm trying to think. So we have So I think the way it would do is it would average out your squad's luck. So you have 3, 7, 5, and 4. So we do clear 3 plus 7 plus 5 plus 4. And then it divides that by 4 to get your average luck stat. And then that's what your thing is. So, well, actually, I think it would be that it weights your primary character. So, like, if you chose Nadia, you would get 3 plus 3 plus 7 plus 5 plus 4. So 22 divided by 4. So 5.5. So it would add yours twice and then divide it by the amount of characters you have. I think is how I would do that formula. Something similar to that to make it so that your luck is within this range. Um, Something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that'll work. Or maybe whoever opens the chest, it's weighted by who that character is. So you'd always want to open your chest with Kane rather than Nadia to get the best equipment. Or something like that. Complicated back end, simple for what it does. Agility affects AP points. Action points. I'm not sure what else we'd want this to do. Probably affects movement speed. And intelligence. Intelligence would do effects, XP. So like with, because it's not going to be a pool, I don't think. I think each character gains their XP separately. So Elizabeth is going to level up a lot faster than say Cyrus is. And Cyrus is going to be a lot faster than, or Kane is going to be a lot faster than Cyrus and Nadia because Elizabeth and Kane are the same intelligence stat. Okay, anyways, it affects XP as well as Psyker benefits. For now. Charisma effects barter, speech, craft, endurance. What does endurance do for you? I think it's health. Effects, HP. Anything else? In this version? Fallout, what does endurance effect? Environmental resistances. That's a good thing to make sure. Healing rate as well. Hit points, healing rate. And resistances. And I'm going to do the same thing with everything. Oops, I spelled endurance wrong. That's pretty dumb. So, let's do perception. Determines how far away enemies can be detected on the compass. Never really liked that. Um, range for weapons. So, like, if you're or chance to hit slash range, I think would be what that is. Because, like, if you're real bad at perception and you're trying to use a sniper, you're probably not going to have the best time. So, like, Kane's probably not the best because he doesn't have the steadiest hands because he's a ghoul. So, like, his shots are probably not going to be the best. That's why he's good at all rounder stuff, but not necessarily good at range. And that's why he has a higher endurance as well. In fact, I think I'm going to swap this so that he is very much higher endurance than everyone else. Yeah, I think that makes sense because then he heals faster. He is overall more resistant to everything, but he is not necessarily the strongest character overall. This music is fun. Range for weapons, and I think what I would do with that is have it so that the chance to hit is lowered, rather than having it so that your actual range is affected. So everything still has the same radius. It's just your chance to hit is lowered by you having your stuff. Um, effects, melee, damage, chance to effect, dialogue, choices, intimidation. I think that makes sense. If you're stronger, your intimidation chances go higher if you have intimidating options. So I think that makes sense for our special stats for now. May change later on. For now, we don't want to do that. So the GUI that we want to go with is closer to Fallout 2 or Tactics. Can I find it? So you would have your AP up here, you would have your main weapon, a switch that allows you to change to your secondary, your HP, your AC, and then like you can go and check your map and such. So we may actually try and recreate this and make our own version that's similar but not quite the same. What the heck is this? Huh. That's interesting. I like that. Anyways, oh man, that character. The Pip Boy 2000 with a scratched out button. Always wondered what the scratched out button is. You can see a little bit of it, but not very much. Anyways, yeah, I think that's a pretty good start for this. and we can continue to refer to this in future ones and do some drawing. I think I was going to show you guys. I'm not doing anything with this project, but we can at least kind of show you what I'm thinking for the actual style. I'm going to do it in Unreal Editor in general, and we're going to have it so that it's a point and click kind of thing, similar to Baldur's Gate once again, with probably a couple of different control schemes. I don't know if I would make it so it's controller friendly in general. Are we going to open? Please open. Please open. So, with this, we would have it be something like this, where you click, and where you click, your person goes to, and then you would have your followers. And I think you would have it so that there's the option to click on each of their faces, as well as a shortcut where you can click to go to next and previous character. And then you would have it so that there's certain advantages to being higher up, as well as we'd have to figure out how to program in cover and such, because we do want to have it so cover is also not that much. I'm only just now like touching a little bit of the engine, so it'll take me a while to actually transition to be able to get to a point where I build out levels and such, but I'm excited for when we get there. Anywho, I have been recording for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours with this specific thing, and my throat is hurting, so I think I'm done for now. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye.